How many of you have ever been on a cruise? Just raise your hand. Good number of people. Okay. Well, you know how much fun a cruise can be. The last cruise I went on was a couple of years ago. I took my father for his birthday on a cruise to Alaska. And of course, it was a magnificent experience, and he's still talking about it to this very day. And of course, we got a room with a balcony, and we're able to sit on the balcony drinking coffee and watching the beautiful scenery of Alaska go by and the wildlife and everything. And so just that in itself was worth it. And then, of course, you know, on the cruise ship, they absolutely pamper you. They treat you like royalty. The constant entertainment, the music of every different variety, the food that they feed you in abundance and good quality food. There seems to be a bar on every corner that you walk past. There's another place to have a drink. The other types of entertainment and the shops and the ports of call and everything. They make sure that you feel like royalty for the week or whatever time it is you're on that cruise. And at the end, they want you to talk about what a wonderful experience you had so that you will tell your friends about it and that you will come back and maybe even bring them with you. And of course, if you ask people or people ask you after the cruise, so how was your trip? What do you tell them about right away? Especially assuming it was a wonderful cruise, say, it was fantastic. The music and entertainment in the lounge every night was wonderful. The shows they put on. The food was magnificent. I especially loved this restaurant or that. And they catered to all my needs. They pampered me. They were attentive. The captain and his crew were nice people and they cared about us. It was absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to go back to them. And of course, that's what makes a cruise. And it's a wonderful way to celebrate a vacation time. But imagine if we had a nation declare war on us, and they send their navy against us to attack one of our coastal cities. And the government decides to send a whole fleet of cruise ships out to meet this navy coming at them. Well, that's going to be a disaster, isn't it? What can the cruise ship do against battleships coming at them? What are they going to do to fight or to defeat the enemy? Dance them to death? Well, of course not. We know very well a cruise ship might be wonderful for entertainment or for making people feel good, but in a war, it's absolutely useless. No, we know in a war, we need a battleship. And there's a big difference between a cruise ship and a battleship. Right away, one of the first things we notice is that on the battleship, there are no guests. Everybody is part of the crew. Everyone is working together to serve the purpose for which they must serve. And the captain receives orders from the admiral of the fleet, whomever it may be, and he's given a mission that he has to carry out. And he has to know that mission, be clear in his mind of how to go about and accomplish that mission. And he has to be able to relate that to the entire crew, to get each person to do the part that they need to do, to work together as a team, and even to make personal sacrifices if necessary, all for the purpose of making sure that the mission is accomplished. And so we see right away the very differences between the two. But my brothers and sisters, you and I are at war. Not a physical war with guns and bombs, but a spiritual war. We are at war with the devil, who since original sin and ever since his fall has been trying his best to win people away from God, to go about every community and every parish and try to drag people away from Jesus and convince them not to worship him anymore. And God himself became man and worked our salvation and now created the church and calls all of us to go out and be the ones to work with him to go out and bring people back from the devil and back to the Lord, to catch people for him. And in our gospel reading today, we see the call of the first apostles. Since the four of them were fishermen, Jesus used a fishing image with them. Come after me, and I will make you fishers of men. To go out and catch people and bring them away from sin and back to Christ so that they do not end up in the grasp of Satan. And if the church is a fleet going out trying to battle the devil, well, each parish is one of those ships. Each parish is a bark, if you will, a ship that is going out to do battle. And so our parish here, St. Anne's, is one of the battleships in the Navy that is going out to try to battle the devil. And so we need to be equipped with all of the armament and or the mentality and the understanding of the mission that we have to go out and be strong and together try to do everything we can to bring as many people away from Satan, away from sin, and back to Christ. But you know what? When we talk about our parishes, we frequently do not use the battleship imagery of our parishes, but we see our parishes more like cruise ships. And for evidence of that, when I talk to people, and if you talk with others and they ask you, do you like your parish? What do I usually hear? Oh yes, I love our parish. Father is so nice. He's so friendly. He stands outside and greets people after Mass. And if you call him, he always makes time to have an appointment with you. If you've been sick, he asks you how you're doing. He cares about you. And he gives a good homily. And we love the music in our parish. The music ministry is great. And they have dinner dances. And they have hospitality where they give us free coffee and cake. And everybody is friendly to everyone else. And it's wonderful. When I go there, I feel that the pastor and the staff of the parish really meet my needs. And they do everything to help me feel good about myself, to help me feel comfortable and welcome, to help me feel like they care about me, about me, about me, about me. And we see our parishes as all about the pastor and the staff serving me and meeting my needs. And nothing I've mentioned there is wrong. Please don't get me wrong. All of those things are good things we want to have in our parishes. But if we have them alone, without a mission, without an understanding that we are here to go out and bring Christ to the world and bring people away from sin and to Christ, if we don't have that, then we're presenting people a parish that's a cruise ship and a parish that is ill-prepared to go out and do battle with the devil and save souls. And maybe that's why we're losing the war that we have, because we don't see our parishes as battleships, and we don't see our calling to go out on our mission and make whatever sacrifices we have to make in our lives to make sure that Christ is preached to as many people as we can, so that we can try to bring at least some of them away from the devil, away from sin, and back to the Lord. And when I hear people talk about if they love their pastor, they usually are telling me some of the things that I just mentioned. I would love to hear somebody say, oh yes, I love our pastor, because our pastor has a firm grip on the mission and the vision he has for our parish, that he wants us to be a place where we go out and bring people to Christ and away from their sin. And he encourages us, he gives us the skills and everything we need to go out and carry out our mission. And every time we come to Mass on Sunday, as we encounter Christ, we feel like we are strengthened to go out and be Christ in the world. I'd love to hear somebody say that about their pastor, but you know what? I never do. I never hear anybody talk about, I love our pastor because he's doing that, even if in fact he is. It's often lost on people. We have as a people lost our whole sense of mission, of what we are all about. And sadly, we see our parishes merely as cruise ships of making people happy so that they'll want to come back and be with us again next Sunday. And again, nothing wrong with any of that, but not if we've lost the sense of our mission, that we are out doing battle with the devil. And so the challenge that the Lord gives us today is that we too have to be fishers of men. We have to be willing to go out and sacrifice the way the apostles did. The first 4 we hear, they left everything behind and followed him to go out and learn from the Lord. And when the time came, they went out and preached him to the ends of the earth. And we are called to do the same thing, to find out who are the people that we need to bring to Christ. And last week, if you were at Mass that I celebrated, I mentioned that priests normally largely see the faithful. We see you. We see the people who come every Sunday to Mass. Occasionally, we see those who have fallen by the wayside, maybe at a baptism or a funeral. They come in, and we're trying to reach out to them and maybe just create a few bridges to them to help them, perhaps even down the line, to decide that they want to come back to us. But you are the ones who see the people who don't come to church, who don't believe in God, the people who need him far more than we do. They're in your families. They're in your neighborhoods. They're in your schools and your workplaces. They're on your little league teams and your bowling teams and your clubs and everything you do. You see them on a regular basis, and you know the people that need to be brought to Christ, and you are in a far better position than I am to try to bring that gospel to Jesus and reach out to them and say, hey, come on, isn't it time you come back to the Lord? Why don't you come and know Christ? And last week I asked everyone, I challenged us all to say if during the course of this next year, we could all identify just one person that we will bring back to Christ. And I asked, do you know somebody that you know needs Christ in your life or that you see on a regular basis? And maybe for everybody, one person will come to mind immediately. A lot of people told me last week after Mass, I know exactly who I'm thinking about. And that might be the case. Or you might think of several people and say, well, there's a lot of people that I could reach out to, but which one should I go after? Or maybe nobody particularly comes to mind. But I said, think about it and pray and ask the Lord to point out one person that you can work on to bring back to Christ. And I said, don't try to start with somebody very difficult. Don't try to start converting the person who thinks the Pope is a psychopathic murderer. Okay, it's going to take an awful lot of effort to win that person over. Start easy. Start with somebody you know who has no particular reason why they stopped coming to church, but maybe they just lost their desire for it, and maybe all they need is someone to give them that little push to help them to get out the door on Sunday morning and come to Mass. And think about the person, and maybe not go to them immediately, but pray about it and say, Lord, this is the person I want to work on. Is this the right person for me to be working on? Pray about it for a week or 2, 3, whatever you need, and hear what the Lord says to you in your heart. And then when you've identified that person and prayed that the person will be receptive to the call that you want to bring them, then when you find the time is right, say a prayer and say, Lord, now I'm going to present the call to this person. Help the person to listen to me. And go and do it. And tell them, listen, why don't you come back to church? Why don't you come and follow the Lord? And you don't have to be any grand theologian saying all sorts of high things. In fact, you can say something very simple like, hey, do you know the meaning of life? Do you know what your life is all about? Why do you get up in the morning and go to work? Why do you do all the things you do? What's the purpose of your individual existence? It can be as simple as that to open a conversation even before we talk about Christ and going to church. In fact, that is the message of our very first section of Discovering Christ in Christ's Life, which will be beginning again in March. And next week, you'll hear us talk a lot more about Christ's life. But talk to them about that and then say, you know what? Why don't you come to Christ's life with me? Let's do it together, and we can go on this journey. And the person may accept, or maybe they'll hem and haw and say, oh, I don't know, maybe, blah, 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 whatever it may be, and say, come on, at least you'll get a free meal, a good meal from Midland Pizzeria every Thursday night. You'll get a good meal, and you'll meet other people, and you might just find yourself being drawn closer to the Lord, and it might make a difference in your life. And if they continue to hem and haw, mention it a couple of times to them, not by nagging, but encouraging them. And if they still balk and are not ready, well, then maybe they're not ready yet. And that's not the best person. So maybe we want to pull back on that and try somebody different and say, okay, Lord, whom shall I try now? But if we can all do that and everybody bring just one person back to Christ, by this time next year, our congregation will have doubled. We will have saved about 450 souls just in 1 year. And if we can do that year after year, think of all the people we will bring back to Christ. And so, my friends, remember that we are out doing battle against the devil. And we don't go into battle, or I would say don't go into war with a cruise ship. Go into war with a battleship. This, the battleship of St. Anne's in Yonkers, that is going out to combat the evil of Satan and try to keep him from bringing people from our community and other people who have never been part of St. Anne's into his grasp, but rather to go out and bring Christ to all of them and try to be fishers of men and bring as many people as we can away from Satan, away from sin, and back to the Lord. And if we can save only one life, only one soul, as St. John tells us, anyone who brings somebody away from his sins covers a multitude of his own sins and saves his eternal soul. And how good we will feel in knowing that we were the instrument by which the Lord reached out to somebody else and brought them back to Christ. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid of the sacrifices we have to make, but pray and ask the Lord to strengthen each and every one of us and our parish as we go out to do battle with the devil. May we bring Christ into our community, into the world, and may we go with the strength of a clear mission in our mind that we are there to do the job that Christ has given us as a parish to do, to bring Christ to the ends of Yonkers and indeed even to the ends of the earth. May Jesus Christ be praised, now and forever.